Welcome everybody to Creating the Future's live conversation around what's going on with our post-election moving forward. And we are sorry that the audio was not working on the live stream, so this is being recorded and will be posted, and we will keep the conversation going. If you do happen to hear this anywhere and you want to tweet, please use the hashtag CTFuture, and that will make sure that we hear you and see you and are part of it. I want to welcome everybody. Ask that if you guys can mute when you're not speaking, that will be helpful. I want to welcome everybody. We are here to sort of support and encourage each other, and find a path forward, a path to what is possible, which we acknowledge is going to be different for absolutely everybody. I am Hildy Gottlieb with Creating the Future, and I'm going to ask each of us to introduce ourselves and what we normally do, and I think it makes sense to do, especially on a day like today. What we normally do when we start our meetings to just bring ourselves into the room is we ask everybody to share very briefly, 2 minutes, maybe just a minute, something that has been awesome in your life. And some days it feels like absolutely nothing is awesome. And I was joking, Rebecca and I were meeting before, and I said, so what's awesome? And we sort of chuckled and then realized that there's things that are awesome. And so I would like to, can you, is that you? Huh?
On a test on it.
No, but the sound is fine, that's all. I will start by saying, oh. I'm going to do one quick thing and make sure that's not it. No, it's not. All right, well, if we're all muted, then Allison, could you mute?
Yes.
Let's see if it's you. I don't know what it is. Dimitri, could you mute?
Yeah.
Let's see if that's, it was no. I'm going to mute the host. There. I knew that would do it. Okay.
You gotta always mute the host. I mean,
always mute the host.
A lesson for life.
What can I say? Anyway, we like to start our meetings with just sharing a little bit of what's awesome in our lives. And I think on a day like today, it is especially important to remember that there are things, sometimes they're small, and remembering the small things that are awesome is pretty big. And I'm going to start by saying what is really feeling awesome to me is this, is being surrounded by people whom I admire and love and are a part of my life, even if I don't know you very, very well. Mario, I'm thinking of you. You have been a very big part of my life. You don't know how big a part of my life. You've been hearing stories of you from afar. And so just having everybody together here is feeling pretty awesome today. And I'll also share that it's been really windy here in Tucson, and the breeze has just felt really cleansing. So I'm going to I'll introduce each of you and ask you to share where you're checking in from, and then just very briefly, something that's awesome in your life. Rebecca, why don't we start with you?
Hi, everyone. Rebecca Hurd, and I'm beaming in from the mountains of McCall, Idaho. And that's what's awesome to me, is where I live, because I live in the most glorious place. And on a day like today, the sun is shining so very brightly.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. How about Anne Vermel? Tell us where you're coming in from and something that's awesome for you today.
Well, I'm Anne Vermel, and I'm beaming in from Fresno, California. And I did have an awesome today, and that was that I just drove back from a meeting with 2 elementary school PE teachers in the poorest school district in California. And I met their class, and I met 15 It was actually their soccer team. I met 15 kids aged in grades 3 to 5 through 5, all Latino, all fantastically hopeful little kids. And they just brightened my day. It was fantastic. So.
Thank you for that. That brightened my day. Alex Budak, tell us where you're beaming in from and something that's awesome, big or small.
Hi, everyone. I'm coming in from a very nondescript white-walled room in San Francisco, California. And something awesome is that I just got married 2 months ago. I'm still getting used to this ring on my finger, but it's fantastic so far. So that's awesome.
Wonderful. Beautiful. And congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
Both of you. You're both very, very lucky humans.
Her more than me, or me more than her, but yes.
It did not come out the way you wanted. Mario, tell us where you're coming in from and something awesome that's going on in your life.
First, thank you everybody for having me here. I'm coming from Boise, Idaho, and it's sunny here and beautiful. But my awesome would be this past weekend, I got to see my son. And what makes it so wonderful is that I've been gone for 6 months on a deployment. So I got to surprise him at school. Probably next to his birth was the second greatest moment of my life, just to be able to surprise and see him. So that's my awesome.
Beautiful. Thank you. We're so glad you're here. Laura Steffen.
Hello, I am calling in from rainy Philadelphia. I'm so sad today. And I was thinking about an awesome a few nights ago. My candidate of choice had a rally here, and it was huge. It was 35,000 people, and I was in a line that was 2 miles long to get in. We never got in, and we had so much fun. It was so heartening to see all these people. We had no idea what would happen. And I just keep thinking of that today. Again, we have no idea what's going to happen, but I remember those 35,000 people, and I know that there are people like me everywhere, and all I have to do is keep talking to more people, and we can figure this out. So that's my awesome. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Mark Eckhart, tell us where you're coming in from and where you're at and something that is awesome and powerful for you today.
I'm coming in from Los Angeles. So hello, everyone. What's awesome, well, what was just awesome was Laura's awesome and your authenticity and your sharing and your vulnerability is beautiful. I am completely just torn up, not for the typical reasons, maybe, or maybe in part for the typical reasons, but it's been wonderful to have my oldest daughter here today. So I haven't had to be alone all day. And that's been really awesome. So I've been able to kind of dart in and out of work just to spend time with her playing Legos, watching Disney, cartoons and things like that. And another thing that's awesome is my wife got to vote as a U.S. citizen for the first time in this election. She's from Denmark, and she made the commitment after 18 years to become a U.S. citizen. So I got to witness and share that experience with her. And then the last thing is just, in spite of what seems to be like real challenges, just the opportunity to connect with so many people just across the board has been really awesome.
Yeah, it really has been. It really has been. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So wonderful for Melina.
Yeah, she was all in it.
I am sure she was.
Yeah.
Oh, Allison Rapping, tell us where you're coming in from and something that is awesome and powerful for you today.
Wow. I'm Allison Rapping, and this is the first time I've been able to be on one of the calls, so I'm delighted. Something that is awesome and wonderful is that I've committed to write a book. And I think now with everything that's happening, a book about movement building and organizational culture is probably a good thing to write. So Hildy, you're going to be getting some calls because I expect to talk about you in the book, and Dimitri and this whole movement, because this is a movement. Being in Arizona, this election has hit me very, very hard. And it's not just the presidential election, it's all the down ballot elections. I didn't work a lot on the national elections. I put my energy into state elections in Arizona. And that's been one of the harder things to see. A bright moment in this is one of the campaigns I worked on. She won. And I'm really excited to at least have had one campaign that I worked on win. And I'm going tonight to volunteer at St. Vincent de Paul because I think that keeps us grounded when we work with the kids in communities. But the last few times I've been there, these kids are terrified that they're going to be deported. And I think I wasn't planning on going there tonight, but Phil and I made the decision that we were going to go because we know those kids are scared. And yeah. So it's awesome that we're going to St. Vincent de Paul tonight.
Yeah. Thank you, Allie. Thank you for that. Joyce?
I'm Joyce Lee Ibarra. I'm joining from Honolulu, Hawaii. And I have two awesomes to share, actually. One is, I'm not sure if any of you all were part of the Pantsuit Nation secret group on Facebook, but I was invited to join that a couple of days ago, and it just was this burst of positivity over the weekend for me and over the past few days, and it's been so heartening to see people share these really beautiful stories, and even after the election results came in, just how people have continued to stay optimistic and stay positive and sort of, try to rally one another to take the energy that is going into frustration and anxiety and use that as fuel for doing good and continuing to move forward. So that was one. The second is this morning, right before this call, actually, I was meeting with a group of people I'm working on a project with. We are doing a study looking at the homelessness issue here in Hawaii. And just, I think being with like-minded people who, obviously we debriefed about the election, but then we kind of got to talking about this really meaningful, impactful work that we're contributing to. And it just felt like a way to refocus onto something that is constructive, and it felt good coming right after last night's election results. So that's my second awesome.
Thank you. Both awesome, sir. It's so interesting that the word awesome, it does not mean good. The word awesome means filled with awe. It means powerful. And that's what it feels like. Thank you, Joyce. Dimitri?
I'll go with two awesomes for 500, Alex. The first awesome is that as last night was unfolding, and I really hurt, and it really, really felt bad. I was grateful, and it was awesome that I have been sort of working on a personal practice to meditate, to sit, and to sort of look at the world as it is, not as I'm imagining it. And it was really awesome to be able to just say, it's okay. It doesn't mean that there isn't work to happen, but it's okay. The world hasn't ended. And it was awesome to use that sort of perspective to realize that there's a real lack of compassion. And there was a whole segment of the country and the world, for that matter, that were not listened to. I know, Mark, you had a post on that, or something similar to that, which also was very similar to what Joyce had. So when Hildy came in and said, we're going to have this call tomorrow, and we're going to do this, and this is what Creative Future is about. I mean, it was an absolute jumping of the heart that this was the most amazing way to respond to this and where to be with this. So those are my two awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll share with you guys that I've been working real hard the past couple of days. I've been writing starting at 5 o'clock in the morning. I've been quitting at 6 and going for a long walk and passing out by 8:30. I now have a kid's bedtime. And last night I fell asleep in front of the television, not the election. I couldn't watch it. I could take it in doses, but I couldn't watch it. I fell asleep at about 9 o'clock. At about 9:30, I dragged my butt into bed and made the really ridiculously stupid decision to just check and see what was going on, and was wide awake. And laid there in the dark for about an hour and just kept saying, you got to get up early tomorrow. You got to get up early tomorrow. You got to get up early. You got to go to sleep. That wasn't going to happen. And what I found this morning scribbled next to my bedside before I finally got up, turned on the lights and said, okay, let's face this, were the words, this work is needed even more now. And that's why my awesome was being with all of you, that this work is needed even more now. What I am hoping we can do today, in being together and being together with others, not just in the US, but in the world. I will share with you that we had several requests from folks around the world. From a friend in Japan said, it will be 7 a.m. And I would love to be in the call. And I said, this first call, can it just be those of us in the US? I had several other notes from several others outside the US who said, I want to be sensitive. They started the conversation with, I want to be sensitive. And if you think it would be better just to talk among Americans just this first time. And I said, thank you. I so deeply appreciate that. What I'm hoping we can do today is to first breathe in this present moment with compassion to ourselves and to others, and others being everybody, because I firmly, deeply in my heart believe that either everybody deserves compassion or nobody does. And so I'd really love us to start by breathing in this present moment with compassion and talking about what we're feeling, what is going on, what is the present moment for each of us, and then breathing out the wisdom that we get to choose. We get to choose whatever path we're going to take. Whatever we do is going to be a choice. We can choose to react. We can choose to create. Those of you who are in our classes hear us talk about reactivity and causality as the deep understanding that when we react, we're actually reacting to the past, because the present moment is nothing but the result of past conditions. And so just that acknowledgement that we have the choice and that whatever we choose is okay, so long as we're mindful that we're choosing it. And, you know, I love the times when I'm not in trauma like this, but when just in my day-to-day life, I can look up and say, I am really pissed off and I'm really trying to decide not to act out of anger, and I know that if I do, it's going to feel good for that moment. It may not feel good later, but now I got to decide, do I want to feel good right now? And sometimes we need to do that. But it is really powerful to know we're doing it and to be mindful of doing it. And so I just hope that we can have a conversation today, starting with, what are you guys feeling? What is going on underneath? Whether it's sadness, whether it's hope, whether it is whatever it is, what are you guys feeling?
I'll go first. just because I have another call that I'm going to have to jump to. So thank you, Hildy, for the opportunity. I feel very deep, profound sadness. And I'm one of those people that saw this coming months ago. And the first glimpse that I got of it was on Facebook, and specifically between the people that I grew up with, that I went to kindergarten with. It took no time for people that have loved each other for their entire lives to go at each other, and it just kept escalating and escalating. So I'm profoundly sad that that occurred in the little microcosm of my hometown friends, but also in the macro of things. I'm really, really pissed off at media, and I think that media has become a wonderful scapegoat for. It's just become a shield that a lot of people have been able to use to justify feelings and certain actions. And the media has become this tool to use in order to avoid actually interacting with people who you may not agree with.
When you say media, are you talking about the media or social media?
All media, all forms of media. It's just become this thing that we put in between ourselves in order to avoid dealing with the human being on the other side. Very easy to launch stuff into media, much harder to deal with somebody directly in an authentic way. I almost didn't make it to this conversation. I actually tried to write on 5 different occasions, Hildy, an email saying that I was going to excuse myself. And the reason for that is because it feels premature for me to be speaking into future impossibility right now. I feel like my nervous system and my reality has just been like shaken up, and not necessarily in a bad way, but there's so many nuances and complexities to this issue and the issues inside of the issue that it seemed that within just a matter of hours, it would be almost inappropriate for me to try to put language to a solution or a future. Because one minute I'm dealing with our president-elect is the first president-elect to be, endorsed by the KKK. And on the other side, I could list a number of different issues that are very positive, and everything in between. So there's this tremendous complexity that I think calls for me to pause and grow thoughtful before thinking about future or trying to plan and create future.
And I so appreciate that. The thought that I'm sitting in quite a lot is that the future is right now, is this moment. What am I being in this moment? How am I going to react in an hour? How am I going to react in 2 hours? And so I really, really appreciate you being here. If you are able, I know you need to hop off. You know what? I'm gonna respect the fact that you need to hop off and not ask you a deep question right now. But the question that I was going to ask you is if you could describe what you think is undergirding the sadness. And it may be all the complexity. It may be all the nuance.
Oh, geez.
And you have 30 seconds before your next call.
What is the sadness? This, I don't know, this may or may not be accurate, but it's just what popped to mind. I think the sadness is in reaction to the fact that underneath it all, we actually really love each other. And there's something in the way of that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
So I'm sorry I have to step out, but thank you all for allowing me to step in for this short period of time. It was wonderful to have just an opportunity to share and be with you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah. If the call ends up short, I'll jump back on. How about that?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mhm.
I'll go because this is, I mean, like Laura, I was shattered. And then I did a little angry dance, like I raged and ranted a bit, but mainly my heart kind of broke. And because I am a product of the Second World War, and because that turned out to be one of the history studies that has kind of dominated my life, my intellectual life, I've watched this whole thing with growing horror and been able to parallel right down to the cast of characters what's been going on. And I've alternated all these months between horror and fear and anger and despair and hope. I am the product of two idealistic parents who formed their political beliefs. They were both pretty radical for their day in the 20s and 30s, when socialism and communism were theories that might actually be good ideas. And they were progressives, and they fought very hard all during the 30s and all during the war for progressive activities and ideas, and they moved in circles where they could get a lot done. And then after the war, they kind of stepped back. My father went back into the classroom, and I watched my parents, who moved from New York and Palo Alto, California, and Washington, D.C., to Lawrence, Kansas, just spin into despair as they met the American apathy, the lack of education, the hatred, the bigotry, the classism, the racism, all of it. And it broke them. So last night I spent a lot of time remembering them, loving them, weeping for them, and determining that I would not be them, that I will not allow this to break us. What it has to do is to strengthen us and be a foundation on which we build. Mrs. Clinton did not fail. She proved that a woman can be nominated to be president of the United States and win the popular vote. And Barack Obama proved a black man can become the president of the United States. So there's a lot to build on. But I have to quote Ursula Le Guin today, because that's what I've been churning around and muttering to myself on the highways. She said, "Hard times are coming. The world needs writers who remember freedom." So that's where I am today.
Thank you. Thank you. What's going on with the rest of you? What is at the heart of what's alive for you right now?
I'll talk a little bit about what I've been thinking about. So for a couple months, I actually haven't watched news in months. I can't stand it. Pretty much since the candidates started debating, I turned it off. I just took it away because I couldn't, it was harmful to me. And this morning I bolted out of bed and I decided it was time to go check out this meditation studio that I've been meaning to check out and never had time for because it was 2 miles away and the schedule doesn't work. But I bolted out and ran through the rain and sat in a room with 2 other people, and they chose a loving kindness meditation. And it was the one where, compassion for yourself, compassion for people you love, compassion for people you don't know or know you don't love. And I tried to give compassion to our president-elect, and my meditation failed. And I went down a dark road. But I walked out of there thinking, I'm not angry at very many individuals for this. They voted the way they were supposed to. They spoke from their fear because that was the last thing they could think of to do. And the process worked. Like, they didn't want someone, and they thought they wanted another person. I think they're going to be very sad when they learn that the actions that person initiates won't help them. But the point is, I felt a power when I walked out of meditation, that I remembered that while I was feeling shame for stepping away, for living my privileged life in a way that I thought was good, that's not good enough. That's not living well for justice. And so it's a reminder to me of what many of my friends have been telling me for months, like, you have to do something. And I was afraid to do something. And I'm sorry that it came to this, but now I'm feeling like, I've gotten invitations today from you, from 5 other people that I trust, saying these are organizations that I am involved with at the local level. And I'm feeling excited about it instead of terrified. So that's where I am.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll share.
I want to be mindful, yes, that Alex and Dimitri and Rebecca need to leave at the hour. So Alex, please.
I think these crisis moments tend to exacerbate our most extreme personality traits. And so for me, that's my optimism and my stubbornness. And so I think this has activated both of those. I firmly believe that the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice. And so I take a long-term view, and I fundamentally believe that this is a blip and not the end of our future. And I'm strengthened in my optimism. Last night at about 11:45, I wrote something on Facebook basically saying that the world needs more change makers. And the response that it got, it's not about me, it's about what's so exciting is that these people are sharing it and commenting, are people that never have ever thought of as change makers themselves. And I don't think they've thought of themselves as change makers, but that they're standing up and not just going and sort of complaining, but saying like, yeah, no, this is actually a time for making change and actually for the power that each of us individually has. I think that that's powerful because I think the election itself, this only shined a light on a problem. So whether Hillary won by 5 or lost by 5, it doesn't really matter to what's happening in the country, of course, on a policy level, not on the deeper level. So I think this might be a moment that can be a call to action. It's painful now, and it's not going to happen in the next couple of days. But I think this may be the jolt our country needs to make sure that we rebend back towards justice.
Thank you. Thank you. Rebecca?
Like many, not much sleep last night. And the first thing my husband said to me this morning was, everything you're doing, everything creating the future is about, this is like throwing gas, they're like lighting the match for the world. And then, to see Hildy's post and knowing that I could show up here saying, I don't really know how I am, but I know that I want to be with people in conversations who are aiming toward what is possible. So I guess a little bit like Alex is I see the beauty we see the beauty in so many people. And when people have been acting out of frustration for a host of things and fear, and that's all that's been fed for so long, is okay, now what, guys? Because if we really do believe that everyone does want the same thing, if we can say we're going to start there, that common ground, then I see potential and I see possibility. I feel energy. I feel sadness, but at the same time, my reservoir is like busting around. What are we going to do now, guys, together? If we can hold more conversations like this and knowing there are other folks getting together, this is not the only conversation happening right now in the world, in our country, of what does it mean to bring people together, and to all the people who couldn't be here to even have the invitation and know these types of conversations and working together will continue. So yes, I'm a mash of emotions, but I am filled with hope and positive energy and collective enoughness indeed.
It's interesting listening to you and listening to Alex, and the thoughts of others who are talking about this as a wake-up call, and you, Laura. I'm sort of feeling like the person who had a quadruple bypass and suddenly found the new lease on life and wouldn't diet and wouldn't exercise and wouldn't quit smoking until that jolt to the head. And then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, the heart attack, maybe I should do something. So thank you. Dimitri, I want to make sure before you have to leave that you get to talk, and not that you're leaving soon, but I want to make sure.
No, I guess the sadness comes from expectation and hopes. And the sort of continuum of progress that, the illusion of progress, I guess, is a better word. And having that illusion not be real. And so the sadness is, you know, we were about to have the first woman president. We were potentially going to have Congress that did something. We potentially were going to have all of these sort of steps forward that now are at best stasis, if not steps back. But I also, part of the sadness is in realizing my own complacency in not hearing and feeling the suffering that resulted in this. The people who've been out of work, the people who don't have insurance, the people who are afraid, the people who have been made afraid, and continue to be made afraid. Before Mark left, he talked about the media. It's a new relationship with the media, and all media. And I think, not it is, but I believe we need a new relationship with the media and what that means. I know that, Hildy, you often have said in the past, I get my news from Facebook. And not that you get it from Facebook sites, you get it from your network of friends who are watching the world and seeing what's happening. We inform each other. And I think that that's going to be really important, that our circle of people is not just the bubbles that Joyce talked about, you know, not just the people that we're comfortable with and familiar with, but all the voices. So I guess the sadness is in having allowed this to reach this point and having been a happy frog as the water bubbles until finally the pot's dry, and it's really uncomfortable. So that's sort of what I'm bringing into the room right now.
Yeah, it's so interesting. First of all, I just want to clarify that I also follow the BBC on Facebook. So if we want to go to,
You are very well informed.
just wanted to clarify that.
But
I know what you're saying.
You're not a Nike News kind of gal.
No, I did what Laura did. I turned it off. And yeah, walked into the light as much as I could. But that sense that we didn't do enough, that sense of complacency, that sense that I should have been out pounding the pavement, that I should have been. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Allie, Joyce, Gloria?
I'll say a few words because I have to leave in a little while to go to St. Vincent de Paul, which is what I felt was important to do. Because those are my kids, and I volunteer at the Dream Center in large part to always keep myself grounded into why we do this work. And I have a huge Facebook following. Like I didn't unfriend anyone on Facebook. I have very wealthy friends that voted for Trump. I have a lot of blue collar friends that voted for Trump. And I have a lot of young people that I know I influenced not to vote for Trump. And I'm quite okay saying I didn't vote for Trump. I'm not a Democrat. I didn't vote for Trump because I have a lot of reasons why I just find him despicable. But there's two observations, and one is it's a practicality. Like, I'm not ready to have this conversation. People said it much more eloquently than I did, that I'm not ready to talk about it right now because it's way too raw for me, and I am not evolved. I am furious. But the practical side of me, this reiterates that those of us that do community work cannot be removed from politics, that public policy is integrated in everything that we do. And the other two observations that this had me think of was the media is not media, it's propaganda. If you look at CNN, who's supposed to be our media, and they hired Donna Brazil, and they hire Corey Lewandowski, and they pay them to give voice to their own position, that's great, but that's not news. So I don't know where we get news from in America, because the media stations are not, they're paid for by corporations, and then they hire people who have a position to basically take over the airwaves. But the second thing that, and this has probably made me the saddest of everything, is that we've pitted blue collar America against immigration and quote unquote elite America. We've created a whole different battle line, but it kills me to think that the people that I love and the people who love me, somehow we're in this war because they see us as quote unquote the elite, and we don't understand. And I'm trying to understand what possessed people to vote for Trump, and how did I not understand that that anger was going to go over someone's self-interest on rational thought. Like, it's like taking a vase that you love and smashing it against the wall, because you have this moment that you think something different is going to happen. But I agree with someone who spoke earlier, nothing different is going to happen because we have 3 branches of the legislature all run by the same party. So I don't usually get angry. I tend to be very, very positive. I'm trying to be positive, but anger is how I feel. And I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, it's why when I started, I said I really would love us to sort of breathe in this present moment with compassion, not just to others, but to ourselves, because whatever we're feeling is what we're feeling, and it's okay. And it's okay. Yeah. Mario, Joyce, do you have anything you want to add? I don't want to pick on you if you're not feeling ready to talk, and I do want to encourage you if you are.
I'll say a little bit about what I'm feeling. I guess the word that comes to mind for me is mourning. I feel a sense of mourning about what sort of trajectory I thought our country was on, and what I feel a little bit of this loss of a sense of possibility that I saw over the last, 8 to 10 years. And I'm definitely struggling with that sensation. I think I'm having difficulty thinking about how to reconcile my head and my heart. My head, I definitely know. I get the optimism, like intellectually I see, that this is a call to action. But in my heart, I'm just so sort of stuck and sunk. So I'm really struggling with that, and sort of figuring out, how do I move past this heaviness to the next step of moving on the intellectual piece.
Thank you. It is a mourning. It feels like a mourning. It feels like a grieving. I found those words in everything. Like you, I think through my fingers. I don't know what I'm thinking till I write it, and I found those words in everything that I was writing last night. Mario, anything you want to share?
I will share, and to everybody, I just want to, it seems like my brothers and sisters have some very heavy hearts, and that affects me deeply. But I want to encourage everybody. As Martin Luther King said, it's the darkest before the dawn. So my ancestors fought too hard for us. 4-year setback is by no means the end. My ancestors built the White House, and I'm encouraged by their blood, their sweat, their tears, that we can mourn, but know that our mourning is only a night. The joy will come in the morning time. And voting is a small civic duty. As Malcolm X said, We're not fighting for civil rights, we're fighting for human rights. We've got to see this as a battle cry. You know, please cry, please mourn, please. The reason you got the division and the reason there's struggle is because you're not showing that compassion for yourself. Be compassionate, recognize you are sad. Take all of it to the fullest. Don't ignore it, don't hide it, don't try to get past it faster. Because guess what? One thing is I know is as a member of the military, whether it's Trump, Obama, Bush, things are going to go forward. And it is up to us as individuals that we will see one another as humans. I've talked to Rebecca about this, this word called Ubuntu, and it's from South Africa. It means I see you as I see me. And I can't see myself unless I see you. And that's not going to change. I'm here today, as I realize, to encourage some grieving hearts and to know that even though I'm all the way here in Boise, Idaho, if there's somebody in here thinking, praying, and looking out mentally for your well interest, and know that there's somebody here who cares deeply, and we're in this struggle together. Nothing stops. We better keep on pressing. There's people who need us.
I want to add a comment. That makes me think about is, I think you mentioned, Hildy, before that Hillary won the popular vote. The majority of the people in this country, but by whatever margin, but nevertheless, the majority support humane, compassionate positions, and believe in that, and in the action of a vote, voted for that. And the reason Trump is president is because of some arcane system called electoral college. And if it was popular vote, the majority of the people don't feel that way. So I know it doesn't change the present reality, but just in terms of my thinking about what you were saying, Mario, and my thinking about and the progress that's been made and where we are and what's happening, there is a continuum here. And that continuum is reflected by that fact. And the fact that there was a gotcha in it.
Yeah. And I'm going to take that one step further, Demetria. I want to share a little bit. Thank you, Rebecca. I'm so glad you could be here.
I'll be there in a few minutes, Rebecca.
The majority of the people in this country feel the way we feel. They may not feel the sadness that we feel right now, but they have felt the anger and the hurt and the pain. They have felt it for months and for months and for months. But I don't mean the electoral majority of people who voted, because, Mario, you're so right, a vote is this big of it. This was a vote of sadness. This was not a vote of people who were saying, oh yeah, let's stick it to him. This was a vote of rejection. And this was, so the people, to paint the 51% that may have voted for Hillary versus the 49% puts us right where we were. And it's the thing that has not allowed me to watch the television, because I didn't give a shit about whether it's Trump or whether it's Hillary. I really didn't. What hurt me so deeply inside at every moment over the past 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, a year, is watching the 300 million people in this country in pain. And that's what is hurting me right now, is knowing that we're all in the same pain and we may be expressing it. There's a tiny minority of people who were very, very adamantly pro-Trump. And there's a very small minority of people who are adamantly pro-Hillary, love Hillary. But most of us just want a decent life, want a compassionate life, want to love our neighbors. I love what Mark said, that underneath everything, we love each other. And that what this entire election season, starting 18 months ago, did was shine a light on the fact that we can easily be torn apart from each other. And I am feeling, Alex, I am so deeply energized, and I'm with you. My unfortunate human flaw is I too go straight from, okay, so I will say I did walk into the other room, curl up next to Dimitri and say, I'm scared to death. And 10 minutes later, sat outside, looked at the stars and said, okay, it's time to do something. So I have that same flaw. But the thing that I'm feeling so compelled to do is to listen to people, everybody, and not just to listen to the people who agree with me, but who agree with me in here, not agree with me up here. But I am so seeing this as a referendum on not listening, on a referendum with our not being with each other and blaming each other and labeling each other and naming each other and us and theming each other. And if I feel any call to anything, it is to walk down the street to my neighbor who had first one Trump sign, then two Trump signs, then he put one on his roof, then he put a banner in front of his house. I live in a small little subdivision. We're not talking mansions that can afford a huge banner on, but put a big banner in front of his house and then shined a light on it saying Hillary for prison. What I'm feeling called to do is go knock on his door and say, hi, I'm your neighbor. Because that's what feels really shitty, is to watch my entire neighborhood go up in the flames of one sign versus another sign. So this sign's got to be big. And Mark said we're not talking to each other, and that's what it feels like. That's probably the thing that hurts me more than anything, and made me turn off the TV months ago, because I just couldn't watch the pain.
I'm going to sign off, folks.
Thank you, Dimitri.
And I will. I'm looking forward to seeing more of this and more of you, and my heart is full of wonderful people. So thank you.
Thank you. And Alex, I know that your time is running short as well. I want to be mindful of that for you.
So is mine. I have to leave at about 3:15. So.
I'm thinking that with so many of us leaving, there's two things that I'd like to do. I'd like to reflect a little bit on what we're feeling and hearing from each other, and what that has led to. And I want to share back with you guys through the lens of catalytic listening, what I heard. But I'd also really like us to have another conversation, to keep talking, and to keep inviting people into conversation, to talk about what could be next. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be knocking on somebody's door. It could be shaking their hand and saying, hi, I want to know you as a human. What I hear so strongly is that we have so much to build on, and that what we have to build on is each other. And that the common humanity that we have, that so many of you spoke about, and Mark talking about the kids he's known since he was 5 suddenly not being able to talk to each other, and Allie, you talking about the same thing with the people that you know, all of us being afraid to attend family gatherings, which we have for years, being afraid because we don't want to talk politics, because we're so not good at finding what we have in common and what grounds us, and that we have so much to build on. The thread of sadness through everything that we're talking about is because of the optimism. If you guys were pessimists, you wouldn't be here. If you did not have faith in what was possible, you wouldn't be here. And I heard that so very, very strongly. And no matter how sad, no matter how broken we feel broken because of our optimism, and that's what we have to build on. As we mourn, as we grieve, as we pull out, because as we know about grieving, we come out of grieving. And it's the what's next. after we come out of it, and we don't have to push ourselves out of it. We Americans are so good at pushing ourselves out of mourning. Oh, you had 2 days off because your mom died. Got to get back to work now. We're so good at pushing it off. We don't have to push it off. We can breathe it in and breathe in that compassion for ourselves. And I heard so much of that among us as well. The acknowledgement that so many of us are speaking from our fear, and yet we're not listening to each other, that we all have the same fears. We all have the same fears. And it's what we do with it. You know, we talk so often about the fact that the why, we all have the why in common. It's the how and the what that we disagree on. We all want to be loved. We all want to live in safe places. We all want beauty. We all want joyful lives. And I'm really just deeply, deeply moved by Mark's statement early on that underneath it, we all love each other. And Mario, your beautiful reminder that this is a blip in time. And if there's one thing that we know about cause and effect, and you know, welcome to our classes, but if there's one thing that we teach all the time, it's that right now, today, we have one foot in the past and one foot in the future. We can't do anything about the foot in the past, that the present moment is gone by the time I am at the end of this sentence. The beginning of the sentence is gone. The present moment is gone, and all we have is the future. And that future will include mourning, and it'll include grieving about lots and lots of things. And it's what we do with it. And so I'm feeling that very, very strongly. And I'd love to hear some reflections from you guys as we start to wind down the conversation, and I hope we'll have another one. And Alex, I hate to call on you first, but I know that you're leaving.
Thank you. I think I'll have to say this and then go. But I'm just grateful. This is a perfect example of change makers standing up. And Hildy, that you created this community, this space for us. I'm incredibly grateful for that each of you guys showed up, that you were vulnerable, that we're humble. I'm just very grateful, and this feeds my optimism. So I agree. Give ourselves time to mourn and to feel, but recognize that it is a blip, and then to get to work. And I'm bolstered by you, and thankful for you, and grateful for you.
Thank you.
So thank you all.
Thank you, Alex. What's standing out for the rest of you in this conversation? Allie, you're muted.
I appreciate you bringing us together for this conversation. My phone's been ringing off the hook since 8 o'clock last night, and I try, to always say it's positive and there's good, that and have compassion for everyone. I'm finding myself having a hard time having compassion for everyone, and I feel like 20 years of work, like this has really hurt a lot of the things. It was like Joyce was saying, a lot of what we do has been significantly impacted by this one election, unlike any other election in my lifetime. But I don't think it's about the election. I think it's about, what do we need to do to move forward? What were the causes of this election, and how do we, in the role that we play, help to heal those causes and create significant change that's going to be better? I don't quite know what that is yet, because it's way too raw. I think as this conversation goes on, listening to everyone else, it will give greater clarity to what those things are and how we can actually do them effectively and collectively.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it is interesting to me that again, I posted in Facebook several months ago, listening to it was probably at just about the moment where I said, yeah, no more. If anybody's posting about the election, and I don't care on which side, I'm not going to listen to it. And the beautiful thing about Facebook's algorithms is what you stop watching and clicking on, they let you ignore. And so it started being less and less in my stream, but I posted a note that said, to all of you who are, and some of you may remember, To all of you who are screaming about Trump, what will you do if he wins? And people kept saying, okay, so Hildy, what will you do? And I said, I'm going to wait to see what you guys talk about. And my answer was, the thing that upsets me, as I said, is not the election. The election is the period at the end of a very, very long sentence. And that long sentence is, things have been really messed up. And we're not feeling the pain that people are in. And last night, what we saw was a huge movie about the pain that people are in. I don't see this election as changing a whole hell of a lot. I really don't. Mostly because I don't have the faith in the electoral system that you have, Allie, that you put your heart and your soul into politics. And I don't have having worked inside of politics for a long time, I don't have the faith that it changes anything. What I have always, the reason I got out of politics at a young age was the realization that politics is the tail at the end of the dog, and that the dog wags the tail, and that we're the people guide politics. We make the decisions. So my pain that I'm feeling is what do we do to heal the people, and the politics will take care of itself. And I'm sensing that so much from what you guys are all saying.
I think that, first of all, I was alone last night, so it was really hard. and I've been alone most of today, except for that wonderful group of kids. And it was the kids who told me that I could move on, that this was going to be fine. But I listened to this, and I really needed to hear you all, because, and some of you I have fallen in love with, but that's, you'll pay for that. But I just realized that what Dimitri was saying was, we didn't know, and we didn't listen, and we didn't hear. And I think we did, but we glided on by a lot. I remember when I was a kid, I saw a movie about some people in a Norwegian town who stood up to the Nazis and faced them down, and they died. But they were heroes, and they were wonderful, and of course they were handsome and beautiful. And I remember leaving that movie thinking, if I ever face that, will I be brave enough to do that? And I think, in a way, what catalytic listening gives us is the tool with which to build that courage. Because it's going next door to listen to our neighbor and to begin to bring out the best in our neighbor. That is the only way that that's what I meant when I said, and I think that's what Mrs. Clinton meant when she said, stay vigilant and stay engaged. We can't drop the ball now. It's more important than it ever was, because the gates have opened. Somebody cried havoc and let loose the dogs of war. It used to be impolite to say things that are now just quite normal. And quite horrifying and quite hurtful. So I think it's important for us to listen, and then when we meet it, say, do you know that hurts? Why would you say that? Could you say that in a different way and tell me what you're really trying to say? Anyway, I have to go, but I really have to say thank you all. I really love you.
And thank you. Thank you. And thank you for bringing kids and optimism into the conversation. You're muted. You were muted. We missed that last part.
I was just saying that you and Alex are probably kindred souls, but then we knew that. So, bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Anyone else? What's standing out for you in our conversation? What are you feeling? What are you noticing? What are you noticing?
I feel like this has been really affirming for me. I think my heart feels lighter. So I think that's part of the process of just continuing to breathe and be with people. And it was this morning when I saw your post about this meeting, I was like, oh yeah, I'm signing up. And I was like, no, I can't. I'm just going to cry. And then I was like, okay, I'm signing up. Oh no, I'm not. Like all day I was back and forth. And then I remembered that I've been reading that book completely by accident, that When Things Fall Apart, Pema Chodron.
Children's book.
Yeah. And that kind of reiteration of we have everything we need in us, and we don't have to label it good or bad. And so I've been thinking, what do I have? What do I have? What can I bring to this that I have forgotten? And I also remembered that a couple weeks ago I said yes to signing back on for the Creating the Future course. And I was like, oh yeah, I have these tools that I haven't used in a while, and I'm so excited to figure out how can I use this thinking to then re-engage with people in a new way and bring it into my coaching work and bring it into my facilitation work. And so I'm feeling a lot more power in that, a reminder that, oh yeah, we have it. We just have to keep trying. So thank you for that, all of you.
Thank you. That lifts my heart. Thank you. Mario, Joyce, what is sitting with you right now as we're signing out?
I'll let Joyce go, ladies first.
The battle of I'm not ready. And it's okay if you're not ready. You can say I'm not ready.
Thank you, Mario. I think what I'm thinking about is I feel some affirmation about the fact that it's okay to still need time to just process and to sort through all the stuff in head and heart that I feel is churning around, that I need to sit with and piece through and just like identify. I think that's what I'm feeling most of all, and just hearing from everyone who was here in this conversation, kind of running the spectrum from extreme optimism to sort of extreme pessimism. Maybe pessimism is the wrong word. Extreme sadness, and realizing we're all navigating this in our own way, and that's okay. And I think I feel heartened knowing that despite the fact we're all processing this differently, the fact that we're here in this conversation together means that we see ourselves on the same journey. So that's my takeaway.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you were here. Mario?
I really don't have much to say other than thoroughly delighted to meet everybody here. I've never met any of you, yet I feel a kindred spirit to each and every single one of you. And I'm sure if I saw you on the street, I'd probably give you a big hug right now. What I hear is that probably the best thing is that everyone is actually taking time to listen to one another. It's almost, as much as I don't like media and internet and stuff like that, and I prefer like one-on-one conversations, man, how powerful it would be if we could just mute ourselves to really listen and how much further we could get in a conversation. Because it's been truly, honestly, I really didn't want to talk. I could sit and probably listen to every single one of you, share your stories, and hopefully maybe one day you can share your story with me. That's what I've heard, is that people are actually listening, and that's very, 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 very encouraging.
Thank you. And it's wonderful having you here. Wonderful. And I know Rebecca's really happy you're back. I will make the commitment to keep creating these conversations. I think that there's nothing more important we can do than have these conversations. You know, Anne talked about courage. Several people talked about courage. It's going to take all the courage I have to knock on my neighbor's door. And I'm vowing that I'm going to knock on my neighbor's door and say hello. And that's what I'm breathing in right now. And if that's the biggest thing if that's the biggest step that I can take at this very moment, I'm good with that being the biggest step that I can take. So thank you guys so much for being so deeply real right now, and so just so present. And we will see you next time, because there will be a next time. So thank you.